Welcome to We're Talking Bears,
where we bring you the latest in the Chicago Bears experience.
I'm Uncle,
nephew,
and I'm Son,
and we're talking Bears.
Hey, welcome, Bears Nation, to our first post of the 2023 offseason. And yeah, this beard now is in honor of Lovie Smith, for sure. It may not have been in honor of Lovie before, but the beard will honor Lovie for as long as it's on my face, because that was the best gift for Christmas anyone has ever gotten.
Oh yeah. And it's still beard goals, man. It's still beard goals. One of my friends actually called me the other day to tell me that.
Cool. So, hey, man, we've all been believers in Poles and what he was doing, even when it kind of looked shady and he traded Roquan and Quinn, and, everybody was down on him, and we were kind of like, yeah, there may be some vision here, but let's see it play out. Or when people say he's not giving Fields what he needed, and right now he seems crazy wise. And I say that from the standpoint, even with Fields, like if Fields hadn't been in the difficult position he was in last year with no pass blocking and EQ as his number one, would he have found out he was maybe one of the best runners that the NFL's seen? That his running ability is up there with guys like Sanders. Am I overstating it? Peyton, Sanders, Smith?
I mean, yeah, a little bit, but I think from quarterback perspective,
open field running. I'm not even from quarterback. Open field running. It's hard to catch and bring him down.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of stuff we used to watch with Sanders, where I was like, oh, this is sad. They're all trying so hard.
I mean, look, there's only so much that you can do as a defender when somebody is that big and that fast. So from a overall, just can he pick it up and wheel it perspective? Yeah, like there's not a lot of dudes that can do what he does at the size that he is. At the speed he runs, at the speed he cuts at, it's not just the straight line speed, but that he changes direction at that speed and doesn't lose speed.
Change of direction.
It's crazy.
Angles, and he gets the angles because he doesn't overshoot an angle so that he's into the next defender.
Mm-hmm.
He's cutting glides. Angles so that guys are missing him by, that much space. That's if you cut too hard, you're going to be right into the next guy.
So everybody knows how good of a runner Justin Fields is, but this offseason is about finding out how good of a passer he is, finding out if this is the dude that can run this franchise for the next decade, right? So I think we all got to shout out and tip our cap to the man King Poles, right? So everybody, tip off the cap. Show this man his respect, because King Poles is out here finessing folks, absolutely finessing this offseason so far, to the point where, man, it's actually kind of funny, man. I played Madden since I was, yay high, and I'm seeing this dude making trades that I feel like that's the kind
Madden engine would not have allowed. The computer would not have allowed it. Those trades that come in, it's like, no. This is definitely a computer would have said no trade.
Madden doesn't even allow you to trade more than 3 things for a single asset, right? Or for anything, right? Whereas Poles got 1, 2, 3, 4. Poles got 5 assets, 5 premium NFL real life assets for 1.
5 to 1, man.
That's almost unheard of.
Think back now, flashback 1 year ago or 11 months ago, because it's not even 1 year ago. Flashback a year ago,
mm-hmm.
right? And when you flash back and you say to yourself, what did it cost Miami to get Tyreek Hill? Or what did Carolina give up to get Christian Kirk?
I can answer that question because I actually have that that whole thing pulled up right now. So Carolina, or sorry, let's start with Miami. Miami gave away 2 premium assets and 3 medium assets, right? So they gave away a 2022 first round pick, which turned out to be number 29 overall, a 2022 second, which was number 50, and a 2022 fourth, which was number 121. Then they gave away a 2023 fourth and a 2023 sixth. So they got 2 premium assets.
Yeah.
3 small time, like medium value assets, right?
5
all
picks,
draft capital.
5 picks, all draft capital to get Tyreek Hill, put Kansas City in a position to be able to draft, fill some holes, and win the Super Bowl again.
Yep. And then
what
who was the second one you asked about?
Carolina. Not Carolina, Jaguars, when they grabbed Christian Kirk.
Christian Kirk, they signed as a free agent. You talking about Calvin Ridley?
Maybe, yeah.
Calvin Ridley. So Calvin Ridley, they traded a 2023 conditional 5th round pick. So we're going to find out when Calvin Ridley plays again what that pick turns out to be, and then a 2024 conditional 4th round pick that is up to a 2nd round pick if they sign Calvin Ridley to an extension. So
and that's for a guy who hasn't played.
For a guy who hasn't played for a year, correct.
That's literally. So we're getting a guy. 3 things. Obviously, availability is the best ability. When we look at DJ Moore, you have a guy that averages 1,000 yards a season.
Yep.
Has multiple seasons in excess of 1,000 yards with quarterbacks. I'm going to say, an old Cam Newton and the rest of the quarterbacks, they're not equal to JF.
Yeah.
So he hasn't had a quarterback equal to JF yet.
The ghost of Cam Newton.
There you go. I'm old Cam Newton, like young Cam Newton. I would say was at this point was better than JF.
Yeah, of course.
JF is catching him, But then on top of that, he's been healthy almost his entire career, and as we see with our best lineman, who I believe is still Tevin. Right. But he's also our most absent lineman, right? He's I don't think he's played 50% of the available snaps that, he's been contracted for. Not even close.
Not even
right.
Close.
So, that's great that if you got a great guy who would be there sometimes, hey, there's Mike Browns and you want Mike Brown on your team, but you also have to account for the fact that he's not playing the whole season.
Yeah.
This guy, like a Braxton Jones, every down, and getting work in. So
he's missed, I think, 2 games his whole career.
Yeah, he's durable. He's out there. So, aside from a freak accident, you can pretty much count on this guy's going to play 17 for you, over the next 3 seasons, or at least let's call it 16 per season, So, and that's huge. Not opening it up even more, staying right there. When you put him in as he is our true number 1, he is our best receiver. When the wide receiver room opens up, he is the king. He's the best wide receiver we have. So now you allow Claypool to be that number 2 option. You allow Mooney to dominate the slot. I believe Mooney's going to dominate.
I think Mooney is going to be the true number 2 on this team. Like when you line up in 2 receiver sets, you're going to want Mooney and DJ Moore out there. I think here's the key. I don't disagree with you. That I'd say it's going to be 50-50 because and Mooney's a great blocker, but I'm going to protect Mooney's body some because he's got a small body and I want to keep him out there. Claypool's almost the size of a tight end. So if it's first down, and I run 70% of the time on first down, yeah, I'm putting Claypool out there but it's not. You don't have they're statistically tied, Mooney and Claypool. There's not a lot. They're not equivalent.
They're not equivalent. They're totally different guys, which is beautiful.
I think
which is why it's tough on a defender. I mean, think about it. You're sitting there and you can't plan for it because half the time you don't know who the number 2 is.
I think the best way to play it is like you said, Claypool can block with that big frame of his. That's great to have sometimes, but as a wideout, you're primarily running routes. Like that's your number one job. And if we're having somebody on first down and it's Claypool, I think that tells defenses more readily, hey, we're probably going to be running, and we don't want to be tipping that cap too early. Plus, Mooney is not as bad of a blocker as his tininess would.
No, Mooney is a good blocker.
So I think
phenomenals.
I think you flex Mooney to the slot in 3 receiver sets, because Mooney is still Justin Fields' favorite receiver. Even when DJ Moore gets here, I expect the target share to be pretty equal, at least for the first couple of games while he gets used to playing at game speed with DJ Moore. Either way, I think this is a massively improved receiver core from Mooney, Equinemius St. Brown, Dante Pettis that we started last season with.
Oh yeah, and let me say, just from a if we went to war right now, we're a better team. We are a more dangerous and better offense, period. But here's the key, and I don't want this to be about Claypool, but if Claypool and Moore are on the field and you're thinking your defense, I want your defense to think you're going to run, because when I play action out of that might be 7 points.
Yeah, and we will have that package for sure. But I'm not going to call Claypool the starter when he has like 7 catches as a Bear or something like that. Like that.
Okay,
you're not starting over.
I respect that. Yeah, so he's still got something to prove in the blue and orange.
While we're finishing this topic, though, let me just tip my cap to King Poles once more, because we acquired DJ Moore. Obviously, this is huge. We're talking about the kind of impact he's going to have on this receiver room. We're talking about moving these guys to their roles and not necessarily just have them play. Just have them play wherever and in this scheme, and then hope that they can succeed. But moving them to the place where they're going to be most effective, right? That makes so much difference in the NFL, is having these guys play the right role. But let's look at for the last several years, okay, any major receiver that's changed teams, right? We're talking about Marquise Brown, right? We're talking about AJ Brown. We're talking about Tyreek Hill, obviously, Devontae Adams. The average of these major moves is the team that receives the wide receiver giving up at least a first round pick. Most of them have additional compensation. Like Devontae Adams was a first and a second, right? With Tyreek Hill, as we discussed, it was 5 picks, right? Poles told these dudes, you are going to give me a top receiver in the NFL, and you're also going to give me all of your best draft picks for the next several years.
Yeah. Yeah.
DJ Moore is he's the creme de la creme to make this little what do you call it? This little key lime pie. Okay. This is a absolute fleecing. We didn't give them a first round pick. At best, we dropped the 2025 first to a 2025 second, when really the 2025 first alone, you could have just told me DJ Moore and not that, and I'd have been happy.
Yeah. I mean, you literally could have just gone from 1 to 8. I mean, 1 to 9, dropping 8. And you give me DJ Moore, and it wouldn't have been a bad deal. It wouldn't have been a great deal. That to me is a fair deal.
You could have just 8 spots in the draft for DJ Moore flat. That's not a bad deal.
Who would say, what team that needs a wide receiver, what team besides the Dolphins or the Bengals wouldn't? I mean, Kansas City might say yes to that.
And in a season where there are almost no top receivers available, and definitely none in the prime of their careers. None available. And Poles makes this happen. Now, another note to that, if we expect, which we do, at least 3 quarterbacks to go in that top, like in those top 9 picks before us, there are the 8 picks before us, that's really only dropping 5 spots.
It's dropping, right.
Because we're not interested in the quarterback.
We're not.
So really, we traded back 5 spots.
Yeah.
5 spots. And then got all of that. That is insane.
We may still get the first. If we get a tackle, we may have the first tackle off the board. It's possible.
It's very possible.
It's very possible.
And if
If
people ahead of us pick a
trade back,
tackle,
get DJ Moore for 3 other additional picks over and above the trade pack, and get the first tackle off the board, the FBI should come take Ryan Poles for stealing.
And here's the craziest part is we're not out of any, we're nowhere near out of the range of a team that may want to trade up again.
You want to know the worst part? This is actually the worst part for everybody else in the universe. Outside of the number 1 pick, statistically, and this is not an this is a cheap statistical study. Okay, this is an eyeball statistical study. But if you look at the list of names of people in the top 10, you're not going to see 10 beats 2 as the quality of their career.
Yeah.
You're not. I mean, you will
get incredible players at
it may be by 0.1% when you talk about the last 50 years, but it's almost imperceptible.
Yeah.
And who knows which, I haven't done the study deep. I mean, you have to do everybody. And, then there's some judgment based on position and all that stuff. But, who knows? Number 7 could be the overall best spot to pick in. But bottom line, the top 10, their careers on average come out about the same. Yep. So, number 1 tends to, you're more likely when you get a 1-1, there's a lot of times that's the win. But, the top 10 is the top 10.
Yeah. And here's that point I was making too, is at number 9, teams want a top 10 pick still, right? We could still conceivably, if we're sitting there at 9 and the draft falls so that the Colts say, we don't like Levis or Richardson, we're going to let them keep falling. We're going to pass on a quarterback this year, and we're going to take best player available. Levis and Richardson fall. One of them is sitting there at 9. There are teams in the back half of the draft, Washington, for instance, that would love a project like Levis or Richardson. Would love that.
And I mean, you don't even have to go that far. You can go when people are paying $40 million for Derek Carr and $41 million for Daniel Jones.
Yeah, no kidding.
There'll be some owners and some GMs that will look up at, and they may be sitting, who knows, in those teens right there, those early teens.
Tennessee at 11.
And like us, when we saw JF sitting there going, hey, we're going to give away next year's number 1 draft pick to jump up a few spaces and guarantee we got this guy.
Exactly.
And it was a good choice for us.
Yep. So we are still in a great position. And then even failing that, there are several top, Devin Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez, Joey Porter, top cornerbacks in this draft. And cornerbacks are a premium position in the NFL. So the Eagles, we know, are taking a cornerback. They just said Darius Slay is available by trade. They released, what's their other guy? Was it Bradbury? Whoever their second corner was this past year, they just released him. We know they're taking a top corner in this draft. So if you want your pick of cornerbacks, you have to pick before the Eagles, right?
Yep.
So we are now directly in front of them.
Yeah, he's not
perfectly, and you might have to trade us at least a second to come up and get your best corner.
Yeah,
right?
He's not done.
Yeah,
and we know done.
We know he loves a trade back, and I'm starting to love a trade back too.
Here's the other thing. Right now, one, obviously DJ Moore's contract's favorable, but over and above that, we also are looking at a scenario where we know he's probably our top pick of the offseason. Maybe he's not, but he could be. But we also know salary cap wise, we're over 80 million and we've got our number 1 receiver, right? So we know so much going into free agency. We know we have 10 picks in this draft, which is crazy. We have 10 picks, and we saw it. He started with 4 last year and ended up with 11 picks. He started with 7 this year, and and we're up to 10.
And most of these picks are at the top of the round.
Oh,
First
wait,
round,
wait.
we're 9. Third
Let-
round, we're 1. Fourth, we're
Yeah.
1. Like it, we are at the
Let's
top
not-
of the round.
Totally different. Let's not forget this. Not only did he start with 7, but he started with 7. We're up to 10, and we've added Claypool and
DJ Moore.
DJ Moore.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like, wait a minute, say that again.
So we've got more draft picks than we started with,
picks
and more players,
and more, top quality NFL starters.
and we did give up Roquan and Robert Quinn, which
Right.
to be fair, that hurts. But at the same time, we would not have been number 1 if we had Roquan or Robert Quinn on that defense.
And I agree. And I'll say this again: Robert Quinn didn't have a phenomenal year.
No.
And he's not young, so you don't expect him to have a great season after he had 18 and a half and set the club record.
And he's always been a mercurial sort of player.
Yeah.
So that was just solid business by play. It hurt a lot.
It was good.
For sure, but it was.
And
solid
I think
business.
Roquan was solid business because I don't think Poles was going to pay as much as Baltimore.
And look at Baltimore now that they've paid Roquan, struggling to sign Lamar. So
yeah, they paid
this
Roquan.
is why you don't pay an off-ball linebacker $100 million.
And they're struggling to keep Lamar. I'm not saying we had the money to pay Roquan, but then when our young undrafted free agent hits the field and shows that he's a beast, you sit back and go,
for $19 million a year less, why don't we?
Yeah, 97 million less over the next 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, over the next 4 years. So yeah, okay, I'll save 97 million and get 90% of the production. I'll take that.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I can buy a lot of other players.
King Poles is out here just making solid business moves left and right. I'm really excited about free agency now. Like, not knowing who our number 1 wideout was going into free agency made it a really apprehensive process. Are we going to overpay for DeAndre Hopkins and get 1 or 2 good years out of him? Is he going to pop for another steroid test? Who knows? Like, are we going to...
Is he going to be healthy?
Yeah, is he going to be healthy? Are we going to try to leverage a good player out of somebody and overpay for them in terms of like draft compensation, where we lose the potential advantage of building our own team and we have to, pay extra for the scraps of somebody else's? So that was weighing on me going into this. Now we're in a position where that room is settled, right? Maybe we draft a late round guy, but the top of that room is so solid that I'm not worried about Justin Fields. Between Kmet and 3 of those top receivers, he's got targets. I
like our receiver room.
More importantly, now we need to rebuild this offensive and defensive line. Now we can just focus for the entirety of free agency and the draft, trenches. That's what we need to be doing now. And I'm really excited to see what we're going to do. Like, there's a lot of big names out there: Orlando Brown, Mike McGlinchey, Jawan Taylor, something like that, the Jacksonville Jaguars right tackle. So a lot of big name guys out there, and the Bears have to spend money. This is something that a lot of people don't realize, is there is a minimum salary cap floor where you have to spend, I think it's 89 or 90% of the available cash for the salary cap over a 4-year period. And right now, hang on, I've got the numbers. Right now, the 90% of that number for 2021 to 2023 is $554 million. So the Bears have to spend $244 million in 2023 alone. So we will be handing out contracts, because right now we've got 93 on the books for our current salary, or something there.
Does that include DJ Moore? Because
I don't think that includes DJ Moore. So we're probably with DJ Moore, we're probably somewhere in the 110 range, right? So we have to spend $130 million. Have to.
Yeah, okay. and
that's cash. That's not salary cap. So that can be, bonuses can be structured, to push money into this calendar year, and then the salary cap hit is later and things like that. So they can be clever with it, but we have to spend money, and we are going to. spend money.
Absolutely. And I think here's the wonderful thing. When we walk into the draft, no matter who we grab in free agency, we know we're going in the trenches. We have the freedom to take the best offensive or defensive line guy on the board every time a pick drops.
Yep.
Now that we've solidified wide receiver, which was, probably the second, I'd say O-line, D-line was the worst room.
Mhm.
Offensive line, second worst room, and wide receiver is a close. I'm just going to give them 2.1. Right? They were right there behind offensive line, and now wide receiver is a strength. And in literally in every round, in every pick, we could sit back and take the best defense or offensive line guy off the board. If we do that through round 4, and we end up with 5 studs, we're not in the same team. That doesn't even count what we spend in free agency because, like you said, you got to bring some guys in. You don't want to just be silly and just spend money for the sake of that. And I don't think Poles will turn around and start doing it.
No,
but he's going to get value. He's going to get
some big names because that's the only way to spend that kind of money.
Yeah, he's going to get a few
spend $150 million.
But he's probably also going to renegotiate some contracts. I mean, if you sit down and you're at the end of all this, I'm going to turn around. I'm going to sign Mooney long term. I respect him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. For sure.
You're going to turn around and you're going to look at a guy like Claypool. Well, I gave away a second. I may not give you the same deal I gave Mooney, but I'm probably locking you up.
And it's beneficial to sign Claypool and Mooney right now because DJ Moore is cap controlled, right? Because Carolina is we're paying DJ Moore 3 years, $50 million or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. Which is the cheapest number one in the league.
Yeah.
That's not on a rookie deal for sure. The cheapest number one in the league.
Yeah.
Okay. So not only are we paying him so little, but most of that cap hit, most of that 50 million, 20 million of it is in the first year. And then it's 16, 15, I think, for the next 2. So not only that, he gets cheaper. So he's averaging like 17 million a year in cost. We're not going to pay Mooney more than that after the season he just had. And we're definitely not paying Claypool anywhere near that. So we have the chance to lock these 2 guys up for long-term extensions.
Yeah, I mean, if they can do 5 years, 60 million.
They're not going to sign a 5-year deal for 60 million, but we might be able to get him. We might be able to get Mooney on a 5-year deal for 5-year deal for 70.
Right, that's still cheap.
Paying him 13 to 15 million a year. That's great.
That's great.
That's a great rate for your number 2. And then Claypool, we might slot in a little bit, maybe $1 million or $2 behind that. And we'll have the cheapest and best wide receiver room in our entire division.
And here's the other key that we do have to remember. Again, the way I look at it is I look at it like this. I know that we're going to attack the trenches. And I look at, we were the number 1 run team in the NFL before Justin became the greatest running quarterback we've seen since Colin Kaepernick, right? And Michael Vick. And before that, we were the number 1 run team. When he took off, as no one was catching us as the number 1 run team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I look at that, the one thing I say, once we fix the offensive line, JF took 55 sacks. At his breakaway ability to get sacks, if we protect him decently, that should be 30 more passes that are completed instead of him being sacked.
Mm-hmm.
or attempted, 30 more pass attempts. But that doesn't count the amount of hits or when he had to run over 150 times. I'm going to say 50 of those runs disappear with a good offensive line. So you're just down to 100 runs that are planned versus 150 because you're running for your life. That's 80 more passes thrown.
Mm-hmm.
And that is almost enough to completely fill up DJ Moore's bank without taking any passes away from anybody
DJ Moore is historically like a 69, 70% reception guy.
But that's what I'm saying. So
that's with terrible quarterbacks.
You want to toss them. You want to toss DJ Moore 110 passes.
Yeah.
So 80 of those passes should just come from the fact that Fields is
protected better. Yep.
Not. You don't have to change your game plan. You literally can go out there and be the number one run team in the league. And now all of a sudden DJ Moore has 80 pass completions, not a completions, attempts, without changing a single thing in the offense.
Yeah. And then that's not including the fact that when you have that kind of consistency in your number one wide receiver, where he's going to beat you on short routes, he's going to beat you on intermediate routes, he's going to beat you on deep routes, that creates so much of a gravitational pull for the coverage to just shift towards him, that the spaces on the other side of the field open up. That means you don't have to run it, an extra 30 times a season.
And when you're watching Carolina versus good defenses like San Francisco and other teams, DJ Moore was getting open. And when I'm talking about open, he looks like college open, like 3 yards.
Yeah.
Not like, it's not this, I'm going to throw a toss-up ball. It's literally going to be like, Justin, I was open.
And I read an article of polls, what he was looking for before, when he walked into the combine. They were, asking him questions, things like that. And he told one of the reporters, they said, "What are you looking for in a wide receiver?" He says, "I'm looking for another separator like Mooney, but bigger." That's what that's called. DJ Moore is a separator. That is the kind of receiver he is, and that's the kind of receiver Justin Fields likes. He likes Chris Olave.
He didn't like Allen Robinson.
Likes Garrett Wilson. He doesn't necessarily like Allen Robinson, Claypool, guys that are just big contested catch guys. He likes separators, guys that distance themselves from the cornerbacks and can get runs after the catch. When they catch that ball, they're in free space and can move. Yeah. That's the type of receiver Fields likes to throw to, and that's the type of receiver we just gave him.
Yeah. And honestly, he's got a part of Justin's growth. He's got to be able to use Claypool. Claypool's got to get 6 catches a game because he's a monster.
That's a lot. But I would say 3 to 5 catches a game, and I'm happy with Claypool's production. Because he draws flags.
You got to get
takes big attention. He's a big target in the red zone. I'm more concerned with his red zone numbers. I'm more concerned with the efficiency of his numbers.
All right, you have to redo that part.
Yeah, so I'm more concerned with Claypool's red zone numbers. I'm more concerned with the efficiency of his numbers. I'm more concerned with what he does in contested catch situations and his third down numbers, right? That's what I'm going to judge Claypool on this season. Not necessarily if he has 45 catches, but 9 touchdowns, 14 yards a catch, and catches 60% of the contested catch balls thrown his way. I'm happy. I'm happy with Claypool. That's a good return on investment, and let his chemistry with Fields continue to build. They're both 24 years old.
Right. And DJ Moore's only 25.
Grow, they'll grow together. If he puts those numbers up, super happy with that.
I think we're seeing a different team. I mean, honestly, and I totally believe Justin's going to work hard and grow. But even when you look at his completion percentages, if you just keep him upright for an extra 80 to 100 tosses, he's gonna be a 3,000-yard passer
easily. I mean, he was 22. He was 2,200 in the first 7 games of the season. He was just learning the offense, right?
Yeah. But I mean, even
I think with this receiving core, he's gonna crack 4,000 if you can keep him upright.
You know what?
He doesn't like to run. He's a pass-first quarterback. This is what people do not understand about him. Going back to when he was all the way in high school, he has been a pass-first quarterback. He runs because he has to. He runs because there are people in his face, because Sam Mustipher has been thrown violently to the left, and there's a 350-pound man sprinting at him. That's why he runs, right? This is not who he chooses to be. This is who he has been forced to be, and he is wildly effective at it. But when he throws the ball to separators, he is also wildly effective at that. That's why Mooney gets such good numbers.
He has the
potential. That's why Olave and Wilson did so well at Ohio State. That's who he is.
And I think with DJ Moore, and here's the terrible sentence that's going around Chicago, but I'm gonna say it. If by some crazy misunderstanding of football, Justin turns out not to be a great passing quarterback.
Okay, yeah.
We actually have 2 number 1 picks next year. We could trade up really close to the number 1 overall without burning any capital.
And if we probably have enough gas at that point to get to number 1 and pick Caleb Williams out of USC.
Or at least number 2, for sure number 3.
the
But
USC version of
yeah,
Justin Fields, to be honest. So
because Carolina's not going to be a great team. So, you know, I mean, if Justin has a terrible year throwing the ball, we probably have 2 top 10 picks in that draft. And if we wanted to bail and go a different direction, we actually are in a great position.
But honestly, what are the odds of Justin Fields being a ball?
I don't believe that. I think
honestly,
if
once he had an offense that fit him, Darnell Mooney catching passes and a good run game. When he had those 3 things, it didn't even matter that his pass protection was trash until Darnell Mooney got hurt. Until he got hurt, he was maybe the best overall chain mover in the league. Between his arm, his passing efficiency was going up week after week. He was torching the Cowboys' lauded defense, torching the Dolphins' defense. He threw like freaking 12 touchdowns to like 5 picks and 1,000 yards in like 5 games.
I'm not
with no one.
I'm not worried about it.
Mooney and Kmet. And
I'm not worried about it because he finished the year with Cole Kmet as his number 1 receiver.
Yeah.
And Cole Kmet's great. I really like him, but he's not Travis Kelce.
No.
It's not the same thing.
No.
So with Cole Kmet as his number 1 receiver and that at about 500 yards and 7 touchdowns, which was great for a tight end. Give me 500 yards and 7 touchdowns out of the tight end position, but he's got nothing more than that out of wide receiver. And you add DJ Moore and you add an offensive line. And then even if
imagine the busted
if he does
coverages.
The same thing. I mean, just start there. If he does the same thing, if he doesn't grow at all, if he grows 0% and he just gets to throw 100 more passes, he's significantly better.
Yeah, easily. Because he's one of the most accurate deep quarterbacks in the league. He actually, I think, was like number 1 in the league between 10 and 19 yards.
Yeah. And guess who is one of the top, if not the top receivers between 10 and 19 yards?
Is it the guy
yes!
who did we just trade for? What's his name? D something. DJ Moore. Is that him?
Poles pulled this off.
Wow, King Poles. King Poles.
You couldn't have.
King Poles. You can't write a better. The NFL writers right now. They are man.
Not to disparage Poles, but it kind of almost seems like he has a friend who carries around a bag of maybe $10 million, drops it off in Texas for Lovey, and then flies down to Carolina and drops another bag of $10 million off in Carolina, because it's just like, stop.
Dude, everything's coming up Bears right now, man. So let's just enjoy this. We're rolling into free agency. We're talking Bears. We'll be providing coverage this offseason. We're going to be checking out the free agency hits.
A best offseason ever already.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is, I'll say, let me go third best right now. So, you got to stay with the off seasons. We got Gale Sayers and Dick Butkus. That was an awesome off season.
You remember that? You remember? No wonder that beard.
No, I was too young to know what was going on. The off season we got Walter Payton, and then the off season, we got Brian Piccolo. You got to put those. This is up there with this is already top 5, and we haven't picked a player yet.
Yeah, no, yeah, man. We've got 10 picks. We got 2 first-round picks next year. Last time we had 2 first-round picks, we did Michael Haynes and Rex Grossman. Okay, I think we're gonna do better than that next year. I think we're gonna do better than that this year. Okay, so let's get this going, man. I can't.
Yeah, wait. I mean, think about the fact that Paul started with 4 total draft picks and came out with 4 legit starters.
Yeah, 3 of them.
So that was last year. So this year, you're walking in with 10 picks. How many legit starters do you leave with?
First in every round, right? Well, not anymore because we traded one of them for DJ Moore. But
we traded 2 of them. We got Claypool. Our 1-1 is now DJ Moore, and our 2-1 is Claypool. And we still have a first-round pick and 2 or 3 second-round picks? How many second-round picks we got? I don't even know.
2 second-round picks and a third that's really a second.
Yeah. So we're rolling. I'm uncle.
I'm nephew.
No, you're not. Report coming in. Nephew is at O'Hare getting off a plane with an empty black bag.
Oh, well, then I'm Son.
And we're talking Bears.
We're talking Bears.